Jesus said, "Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed for action and have your lamps lit. Be like those who are waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that they may open the door for him as soon as he comes to knock. Blessed are those slaves whom the master finds alert when he comes. Truly, I tell you, he will fasten his belt and have them sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. If he comes during the middle of the night or near dawn and finds them so, blessed are those slaves. But know this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour." This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please be seated. Okay, let's start off like we did last week. Telling everybody, make them relax. God is not saying you have to give everything away that you own. That God is not against money. In fact, God blesses us with so very much, especially those of us who live in this country. We have been some of the most blessed people in all of the world. So God is not saying that, okay, everything I gave you, you must now get rid of. But what God is saying is that the way that you handle all the blessings you have been given will be done either to honor me or honor yourselves. And that is the choice that we truly have to make. Do we choose to honor God with what we have and what we are given, or do we choose to honor ourselves? And the choice that we make, well, that's going to dictate where our rewards and where our treasures truly are. Are they of the earth or are they of heaven itself? You see, with everything that God blesses us with, we in turn can be a blessing to those we meet, but we have to be ready to do just that. As I mentioned at our gathering this morning, that I had a funeral on Thursday and a baptism on Saturday. It seems kind of backwards in the order of the church. But at both times we spoke almost similar words. That we start off a funeral the same way we start off a baptism. We talk about being baptized into a life like Christ, and so therefore being baptized into a death like His, which ultimately means we are baptized into a resurrection like His. You see, that's why Jesus told those who listen this morning, "Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's pleasure to give you His kingdom. It is given to you. You already possess it. You don't have to earn it. You can't. But it is yours right now. And you can choose to live in that kingdom here and now as well. We don't have to wait until after we die, after we are raised up from the dead, but rather we can choose to live in God's kingdom right now. But that means we kind of have to change our focus on a few things. That first and foremost, we give all honor, glory, and praise to God every day for all things. And then we seek to do what God would have us do. You see, sometimes we forget that part. We accept the blessings that God gives us, and then we try and do everything on our own. We try and figure out, okay, this is what I think I should do with it. It's kind of like that story I think I've shared once before about a man who lived up in a mountain in a cabin. And he was a hardworking man most of his life, but he got to a certain age and said, you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to relax. I'm just going to take what comes, and I'm just going to live the rest of my life here. And he did so month after month, and then One night while he was asleep, there was this glow in his room, and it was a light so bright he could barely open his eyes, and then a voice came to him and said, "My son, I need you to do something for me." And he said, "Lord, what is it you want me to do?" And God said to him, "You know that big stone out in front of your cabin? I want you to go each and every day, and I want you to put your shoulder to that stone, and each and every day I want you to push against that stone. Sun up, sun down. You just push against that stone." And the man said, "Yes, Lord, I will do what you asked me to do." And so the very next morning he got up, got dressed, and he put his shoulder to that stone and he began to push. And he pushed and he pushed. He did it all that day, all the next day, all the next week, all the next month, all the next years. And finally, after a few years of going on every day, every waking moment he had, pushing against that stone, he finally sat in his bed, looked up at the ceiling and said, "God, I don't understand. I've done everything you've asked me to do. Why won't that rock move? How have I failed you, Father? What is it that you would have me do?" That light again came into that room, and the voice of God said, "My son, you have done everything I've asked you to do. I asked you to put your shoulder against that stone and push, and you've done exactly that. Not once did I ever tell you to move that stone. I will move it for you." The old man said, "Father, I don't understand. Day in and day out, I pushed and pushed. What was the use of that?" He said, "My son, when you began to do that, your body, mind, and soul were weak. If you look in the mirror, you will see that you have muscle tone, that being out in the sun, your skin is bronze, that your legs and your calves are hard because they are full of life. That once where you were weak, now you are strong. What I gave you to do brought about to you life itself. And now I will continue and do the work for you." You see, sometimes we have an idea of what we think we should do rather than first consulting God himself. "God, what is it you would have me do? What would you have me do with all of these blessings or with just this meager little bit? God, I put it in your hands. Let us do these things to glorify you." You see, that is how Jesus would have us build treasures up in heaven. By first seeking God and asking for his guidance in all things. Not just when things are too tough for us to figure out. Not when we are at the end of our rope. Not when we are facing a major crisis. And yes, we are allowed to call upon God for that, but we should seek God in all things. That no matter what comes our way, we first turn it over to God. And how is it, God, that this can be a blessing to others? How is this, God, able to glorify you? Show me. Jesus says that when we do that, we will receive these treasures in heaven. And again, it's not because we're buying our way there, because we can't. That has already been done for us. But we are able to then do as maybe we would have done for our parents. Did we not love our parents? I know that with my mom especially, that there's nothing I wouldn't have done for her, and everything that I did do for her, especially as I kind of grew up, I did because I wanted to. I did because I wanted to make her proud. I did so because I wanted her to know that all of the love that she had showed me, I wanted to show that in return. That's the way it is with God. We can't buy his love. He just gives it freely. How is it that we respond to that love? Maybe as a child, wanting to show that parent, wanting to show our Heavenly Father, I do love him. I want to make you proud, Father. I want to do all those things that you want me to do. I want to be the person, God, that you want me to be. But God, I can't do this on my own. I need your help. You know that I am sinful. You know that I fall. But I also know that you sent Jesus Christ into the world, not only to die for me, but also to show me that there is a way. That he said he would send your Holy Spirit into this world, and that Holy Spirit would come and lift me up even in my fallenness. That each time that I sin, I am able to turn once again to you, seek forgiveness, and know that it is mine, and to know that you will restore me on the pathway of righteousness. And when we do that, we build up those treasures in heaven. You see, it's all about faith. The faith that Abraham had. I mean, let's face it, Abraham was older than anybody in this building right now. And God said, Abraham, I'm going to bless you with children. What would our reaction be? And yet Abraham said, in essence, Lord, if you say so, I believe. And God counted that as righteousness, his faith, and then his action. Because he believed, he knew it would happen, and it did. I mean, he gave birth, or his wife Sarah gave birth, but I say he was almost 100 years old. Yeah, let that sink in. But because God said so, he believed, and because he believed, it happened. And that is how he glorified God. All of his descendants, all who came after him, ultimately led up to the time of Christ coming into the world. And through Abraham and all his generations, the love of God was shown to us. And it continues forth with us. That if we trust as Abraham trusted, we are then able to do the will and the work of God, no matter where we find ourselves. But we have to trust. It is like that story of the man crawling through the desert who was dying of thirst, who came upon the rusty old hand pump. And there was a note attached to this hand pump. It was actually on a piece of wood, and it was carved into this wood. It said, buried 3 paces in front of you is a canteen of water. Dig that canteen up, but don't drink of that water. Rather, pour half of it down into the pump. Wait 10 minutes and then pour the other half down. What you need to do is lubricate all the leather seals in there, and then you will prime the pump, and then you can pump the water, and you will have all the water you can drink. What would you do? Would you be satisfied in digging up the canteen and just drinking that canteen and being satisfied for just a short time, and then again be thirsting, dying of thirst? Or would you rather follow those instructions, trusting in something that you really couldn't see, but trusting because someone asked you to? And in trusting, you find that by that giving of that precious water, you will have all that you need and to overflowing, that you will never thirst again. That's the choice that we have to make each and every day of our lives. Do we trust in those things that are unseen, or do we trust in the things of this world? And yes, we can trust in the things of this world, and we may be satisfied for a day, but we shall be hungry and thirsty forever. And that is why Jesus tells us to build up treasures in our Father's kingdom, not of this earth. That yes, you are blessed in many ways and in many things, but use those blessings to be a blessing to those you need. Share in the grace and the love of God. And a lot of times, guys, I'm going to let you in on this. We don't have to spend a lot of money to do it. We just have to show up. What I did this past week on Wednesday and Thursday was to be able to bring the love of God to those who are in mourning, to sit with those folks and listen to their stories, to feel their sorrow, but then also to share what is to come. That I was able to bring the light of God, not because I'm anyone special, but because I was open to doing the will of God. That I could share with them my faith and let them know that God loves them just as He loves me. And that as God has promised me a place in His kingdom, even though I do not deserve it, and I have not earned it because I cannot, that so too their loved ones and even those who were gathered with us had that same assurance. I believe in Jesus is the Son of God. And then yesterday, as we held little Cole in our arms, and as I baptized him in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, I gave him and all who were gathered that same assurance. That just as Cole was brought to this fount, not by his own skill, by his own wish or own want, rather it is by the Holy Spirit working through his mom and dad, his godparents, his grandparents, they brought him to that font. That Cole had nothing to do with that salvation, just as we had nothing to do with our own salvation. But it is all the will and the work of God. And just as we began that relationship yesterday with Cole and God, we too have that relationship. And it is the living out of that relationship that is the expression of our faith, the way that we love others. Jesus himself told us that others will know that you are my disciples by the way that you love one another. Love as I have shown you to love. Love God, love your neighbor. And when you do that, you already have the kingdom of God. When you do that, then you inherit not only that kingdom, but more importantly, you build up the treasures for eternity. Stop thinking about the short term. If we are blessed, we may be here another 5, 10, 20, maybe 50 years. But compare that with eternity. Why place everything for the short term? Build it up for the long term. Build up your treasures where moth cannot destroy, nor rust will ever touch. Love God. Love your neighbor. Do all things to glorify Him. That's where all we have.